Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Morning Meta. I am yours truly, Travis Spencer.
I'm Camilla Crawley.
Camilla, ah,
Yes.
community conversations.
hmm
I'm looking forward to this
I
conversation.
am too. We have a very special guest for everyone today, Evelyn Ray, a creative author, singer, songwriter, speaker. I can't wait
Mhm.
to hear what Evelyn has to share with us.
Yes, yes,
hmm
absolutely.
So, I always like to remind everyone of our seasonal themes, and those themes are turning inward, introspection, acknowledgement and acceptance, stillness, rest and reflection, and nurturing growth and change, self compassion and grace. So, as always, these themes are going to continue to inform the mindfulness practices that you'll see us doing each and every day through season. So, we have our special guest, Evelyn Ray. We're really excited because this is someone that we met just last year,
Yes.
and I met through a family member, my aunt Mauna, and out there in Indiana, where I have some family. This is how we met, Evelyn, and it's one of those experiences where you meet people and then you start talking and then you just keep talking and you're talking and you
Mhm.
talk more because immediately you're like on the same wavelength.
Mhm.
And that's the experience that we felt when we met Evelyn, when you
Yes.
can just sense someone's light in their energy and it draws you in and you just keep talking and talking to them. So, really, really excited to have Evelyn Ray with us. And we want you all to connect and get to know her a little bit. So, Evelyn, welcome to Morning Meadows Community Conversations. And just tell us a little bit about yourself. So, who you are and some of your story in terms of what led you to this point of where you are in life.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, Travis and Camila. I told you, I'm going to not call you Camila, Kalima. That's what I've been doing. Okay, well, let me just calm down. First of all, thank you. It was so great to engage you. I don't say we met. We encountered one another in a very sweet space with people that I am very fond of. Your aunt is a jewel in our community. So I love the conversation that we have. And that we had that day and that we're having today. So thank you for inviting me to your platform. It's been wonderful getting to learn about your organization and what it is you do for us as a people. And one of the things that struck me with you both was that you were very much aware of the importance of mindfulness amongst our people. And
Mhm.
so I was really, really blessed to engage with you because I didn't find a lot of people who would take up the conversation, right? So I think that's what brought us together was the fact that we were able to connect because you don't get that in a general day-to-day conversation. So I am Evelyn Ray. I am a vocalist, speaker, singer, songwriter, a creative, an eclectic of many opportunities that have come my way. One of my dear passions, however, is singing. It is a gift and a talent that I steward, but I also found that the voice also speaks to spoken word and poetry, which is a recent creative side of me that's becoming fun and dear. I also have spent over 30 years in the entertainment industry, and have had the privilege of doing voiceovers that have gone national. I've traveled internationally and I've sang internationally. And so it's just been me and my little world doing some big things sometimes. And it's just like, how did I get here? Right. And then I come back home to the Midwest and I settle down and I get feet on the ground. And my family quickly reminds me that I'm just Niecy. Right. So, but I love the fact that I've had a course of television journalism. I've been privileged to be on mission boards, serving ministry. I am a licensed minister. I was under the Christian religion, but I have evolved. And so we learn in life that there are tools. We don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. But if we
Yes.
can learn to perceive ourselves as a whole and not just as a designation, we can find ourselves becoming the best form of ourselves that we can be in the image of the one who created us. So I love bowling. I love motorcycle riding. I used to be a motorcyclist and had my own motorcycle back in the day. But speaking and exhorting and teaching, um, and just encouraging people to love, to be life. My life motto, I can throw this in right here, is to be the light I want to see, the joy I want to feel, and the love I want to know. And so, I've lived long enough now to know that there is nothing new under the sun. A lot of what we're experiencing is just repackaged um, drama, trauma, and religion, just all of it. So how we come and we are blessed to be incarnated into this realm. All souls come from the creator, but we come down here to be able to have our metal proven, so to speak, if I can say it like that. So mindfulness is a big part of that. It is something that I have practiced since I think it was since about 2005. I began to wake up and understand there is more to us as a created being than we are given credit for, and that we are even allowed to know. The construct that we are born into here, especially in the West, really does not promote us to come into that oneness of ourselves and our mindfulness. So I think that's pretty much it. I'm a mother of two sons. My firstborn son transitioned in 2014. I have a living son who's a phenomenal talent, but he is a joy to me. And I'm a grandmother of
Mm.
five beautiful grandchildren and a great grandmother of a beautiful great granddaughter. So I know I don't look it, but yeah.
That's right. Oh wow. Such a wonderful already, like you said, you're still young. And so such a wonderful journey you've had up to this point. And I know that Travis and I, we had the pleasure of hearing you sing, and it was on the
Mhm.
spot. And let me tell y'all, she
Yes.
sung
Yeah.
it down, and it was on the spot. So I'm really interested to know for you, when did you know that you had this gift? Was it that someone else told you, or you just always felt it? When did you know?
Wow, that is such a great question. Growing up, we have always been a people of dance and music and theatrics, right? We all have that one person in our family is just like the family comedian or jokester, and we just. I grew up in a family that wasn't necessarily healthy, but we will joan on you. Just don't do
Mhm.
nothing. We're gonna talk about you. We're gonna talk about you, but we're gonna laugh and laugh
Mhm.
with you. But I was a very precocious little girl. Shirley Temple was back in the day when I was coming up and
Mhm.
coming through the Jacksons and all of that. We prided ourselves basically on being able to perform and sing, but it was just such a joy of our very makeup, right? So growing up singing, as a child, my mom actually told me that I came out singing, right?
Mhm.
I don't ever remember, except for the time when my son transitioned, I just never remember not hearing music within myself, right? My report cards would say, Evelyn is a joy to have in class. Please tell her to stop humming. Evelyn is a delightful student. Please ask her to stop singing. So those were the kind of comments that my teachers would leave. And so music was just a part of me. When did I know that I could sing? Well, I think as a child, you're in the church, right? So this is my experience. I grew up in the church, and everybody has a singing voice. But when you're the child that people say, let that little girl that sing get up there, and you find the older
Mhm.
people encouraging you, right? And then that's just as I began to grow up and mature, become a young adult. I had one spiritual mom. She says, "Now, Evelyn, when I pass away, you're going to sing at my funeral." And I just would be like, ah. And people would ask me to sing at weddings and different occasions and funerals, or I couldn't go to a family reunion once I got married and not sing. And I began to, just embrace it. And then there came the day when somebody said, "Are you a professional?" And I was like, "I know." They said, "Well, has anybody ever paid you to sing? Do you know people will pay you to sing?" And I just thought, Okay, well, so I became professional, I think about at the age of 17, right? And
Mm,
I've been singing ever since. So yeah.
Oh, wow.
mhm. Beautiful, beautiful.
Hmm. And so,
Thank
would you
you.
say, I know that you mentioned that you're aware of mindfulness, you have some practices that you do. Would you say that your creativity and your artistry and all the things that are just gifts with inside of you, would you say all of that is a part of your practice?
Mhm. That's a very good question too. And I will say yes. I think we are born with this space in us for mindfulness, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, our breeding ground or our growing ground is the ground that begins to shrink that down, right?
Hmm.
Um, as a child, when I was growing up, we had to use our imagination, right? We would look up in the clouds and make images out of the clouds and see faces in the clouds. We didn't have computers and iPhones and iPads. We had string. You know what I'm saying? We had blocks. We had sticks. We had mud and water, right? Dirt and water to make mud pies. So there was a richness of the imagination that I grew up with. When it was storm outside, the elders would say, "Sit down and be quiet," because God was talking. So we had
Hmm.
in our ecosystem at that stage in life, um, mindfulness. It wasn't titled that, but there were times we had to get somewhere and be still and be quiet, as the old
Hmm.
people would say. Children were
Right.
seen and not heard. Right? We were in a culture and a time where we didn't have 24-hour television and radio. There was a clear time when we were quiet and made to be quiet. So that led us into a form of meditation and mindfulness. And we've since lost that practice in that culture with the advent of all of the technology. So, yes, I was allowed to have space within myself to write songs, to write poetry, to write plays. You
Hmm.
know what I'm saying? I had a vivid imagination, and I would just use it a lot of times, just on my family members as well. You know, I did it recognize then that that gift was that's what that was. That was a gift to be able to go within myself and to create a whole story and write a whole book, you know, or write a whole song. But yeah, it was a part of me. We just didn't have it in those terms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful, what you just shared with us. And you just made me think about this journey of healing is a return to the present moment, I believe. Journey inside in the present moment, you can be focused and you can really feel what really is going on, you know. So
Hmm.
yeah, I'm feeling what you're saying.
Yeah,
Mm.
I love what you just shared too, because what I was thinking about is similar to what Travis said, that this practice is a remembering, and
Yes.
I think it's great for all of us to hear right now in this day and age when, because we've become so used to it, we may think like, oh, well, what am I going to do without my iPad or being able to get on my computer or my phone? And to hear how just remembering that having that opportunity to be still, to have that time and space actually allows us and supports us in our creativity,
Hmm.
and going inward. And we don't have to have that label on it that it's mindfulness. It's just,
Hmm.
our nature, basically.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's right. Returning to our nature is very right. And we saw that with the COVID, you know, all sides being what they are. But the one thing that came out of that space was the fact that people regained their creative side, their creative nature, right? They were basically forced to be still, even though they still had technology. They had to be very creative in what to do with time now that their routine.
Hmm.
See, that's very key. The one way to get to mindfulness or to return to, I'm going to use that, return to mindfulness is that you have to break the routine of technology in your life. You have to be intentional about one of my goals this year is to really reconnect with nature. You heard me say a
Mm,
moment ago how when we were outside, we'd lay in the grass and we'd look up in the sky and make, you know, pictures and stories out of the clouds, right? When was the last
Mhm.
time we went outside just to put our feet in the grass and ground with the earth which we come from, and just to be
Mhm.
in touch and tune with nature? My firstborn grandson, he loves to uh, swoop me up and we'll go out into the park and we will share a book or a special story or the Bible, just whatever. But he likes to go out into nature. And I thought for a young man, 20 something, to want to hang out with his grandmother in the park was pretty cool,
Mhm.
right? But
Mhm.
his intention to do that with me was he wanted to be present with me.
Mhm.
I can be pretty busy. My schedule can get pretty hectic, and so he'll just come and say, "I'm going to pick you up, and we're going to go to the park." And there are no cell phones, and it's just our time to really be present with one another. So, yeah, that is something that we need to really do. Sorry about that.
mm.
Mhm.
Nice, nice. Well, thank you so much for sharing, some of your stories, some of your inspiration, and what's led you to this point. And so,
Mhm.
what we want to do is really just allow you to hold this space and share what you feel passionate about sharing with the community. So you can give us like an overview of what you like to talk about, and then you can go right in.
Mhm.
Go right into it.
All right, very good. Thank you again. Um, there is so much going on in our world right now. And I want to really talk about the pause, the space in us where we just simply pause, that pause to listen, to settle down, and to be still.
Mhm.
Um, in another season in my life, I was going through a very tumultuous time. I had been a wife and a mother, I had been a stay home mom. And the years of striving to have the American dream
Mm,
had began to take its toll, even in the community of faith and religion, and even in that discipline of structuring your family with a set of morals and conduct that the world says is what makes you successful. That means you have the good job, you have the house in the cul-de-sac, you have the 2.5 kids and the dogs, you have the minivan and the SUV, and you have the family vacations, you have it all. You have what America says makes you successful, and what Black America says makes you really successful, because you've overcome the odds of the ghetto and the stereotypical things that uh, make for so-called Black people, right? In this culture, in this nation. And so when you reach that level of accomplishment, I won't necessarily call it success, but when you reach that level of accomplishment in life and you have your careers, you have your dream, and then it all comes crashing down after you've done it the best that you've known how to do, and it all comes crashing down, then the question becomes, who are you? When you're no longer
Mhm.
defined by the roles that you play, you're no longer defined by the image that you perceive yourself to be, then you find yourself with this pause. And that's where I found myself in 2007. My whole life shifted, and I was forced through divorce to encounter this pause. And that pause took me to what I like to call now a sacred space and an opportunity. Um, the marriage did come to an end, and the family and the life and the career and all that identified me for who I thought I was did come to an end. But that clear ending opened a wide door to a new beginning. And that was
Mhm.
the discovery of me. And I won't change it for anything in the world, because I think in this life we're so busy striving and trying to be and to have, and we're trying to, we're just doing it, but we never are becoming. And so since I
Mhm.
was forced with this pause, I took a season and I relocated to Atlanta. I moved from the city that I raised my family in and had grown my life in, and I moved to Atlanta. And for the first 3 months that I was there, I basically went through a healing process,
Mhm.
and I was brought back to myself, because now I was no longer the wife, the mother, the speaker, the singer, the blah, blah, blah. I was not the evangelist. I was just simply Evelyn. And the most disturbing part about that was I didn't know who she was.
Mhm.
Wow.
So
Yes.
being mindful is so important. Go ahead. Did you have any? Were you going to say something, Camila?
Oh no, go ahead. I was just, already. Sometimes Travis will say, "I feel like a bobblehead," because we're like resonating with what people say, and that's how we feel. So
Yeah,
yes, continue.
yeah. So in that space, what I would call my divine pause, I was able to begin to hear again what I say, my Father's voice. And I was able to reconnect with that voice that had been with me my whole life. That voice of intuitive knowing, that voice of dreams and visions and deja vus, that voice of, I don't know how I know, but I just know, right? That
Mhm.
sense of um, awareness beyond my outward stimuli, right? And so it was a little bit alarming, because it showed me how far, I'll say it this way, how detached I had become from the very essence of who I am, right?
Mhm.
And so in that time, in that pause, I was able to begin to hear many of the misnomers and even downright lies that I believed about myself, right? All of the insecurities, all of the sense of failures, all of the sense of inadequacies, all of the uh, trainings of, here's one for you. I remember this. My grandmother always told me, uh, Nisi, be nice. And now, when you're a little small package with big ears, the older people were very congenial and nice. And they had to be, because slavery and the remnants from it demanded that they could not own their true emotions and feelings and speak to them, because that could literally mean their life in that moment, right? And
Mhm.
so they had to become nice. Now, in this pause, when I was living in Atlanta in my apartment, the Holy Spirit gave me this. Nice is needless indulgence causing exasperation.
Mhm.
I'll say it. Nice is needless indulgence causing exasperation, right? And he began to share with me. The Most High said, you're going to learn some things about yourself, but the Messiah was never nice. He was kind, but he wasn't nice, right? And then I said, for me, and I'm gonna put it out here, but I said, kind is keep insane Negroes distant. That was for me, right? But I began to learn all of the ways that I had needlessly indulged in being this person that I did not want to be rejected, this person that I
Mhm.
was afraid to be, because of the fear of rejection and disapproval, because the construct of my formative years were, no, behave, no, sit down, stop, quit, you cannot, no, don't, there was not a culture of affirmation, and that if you did make a mistake, there was not a healthy construct of of correction. It was always a fear, and it was a harsh and a stern correction. And so in that pause, I was able to connect with myself on many different levels, begin the journey of detoxing, emotionally, spiritually, even down to my physical body. When I moved, I was very a heavyweight. But by the time I came through that season, I was back to high school weight. I thought I was some kind of cute, y'all. But yeah, I know, right? But it was a wonderful reflection for me to prepare for this talk today, because I didn't even realize how toxic I was, even in the marriage of 25 years, just trying to be all of those different people, you know, who I was never meant to be, right? At least not in that way, at least not in the ways that I tried to be. So, becoming mindful of myself in that journey then brought me to a new career in my life. Really, not a new career. I'm a nurturer by nature, so I am a skilled CNA. I train babies to sleep. I started three daycares. Started two Christian schools. Started with two Christian schools. I didn't start them. I started with them. But wherever there was education, I'm trained to be early childhood teacher, so wherever education and motivation uh, lies, I was in those lanes. But it took me time to settle down in the pause and give myself time to heal. I think that's another thing that I want to talk about on today. In the rest for the soul, in the mindfulness, you cannot rush your healing. When my son transitioned, my firstborn son transitioned in 2014. Whereas I thought the death of the marriage, the season of the marriage ending, would take me out. Nothing compared to the weight and the pain and the trauma, the soul trauma of losing my firstborn son. And I don't even like to say losing, but accepting his transition, right? And and yet, when I recognized the process that it would take for me to go through that space, from all of the grieving to even believing that there could be a day when I would want to live and have grace and have the joy, it was at the beginning of that journey. I could not, I could not even imagine it. And if we continue down this path of being too busy, not practicing the mental rest, or, and I'll use it in these terms, the mental Sabbath, you know, sometimes you need to take a rest even throughout your day. Some cultures have a siesta, right?
Yes.
It's very important. The body and the mind and the soul are so intertwined, but we were not meant to carry, I believe. We were not designed. I don't believe it was in our design and makeup to carry so many burdens and have so much information to the point that we're not processing and responding. What we are being inundated with does not allow us to have healthy responses. It requires us to be triggered to react. And whenever we react out of our soul, where the seat of our emotions are. We never react out of the spirit. The spirit responds. I'll show you. You walk into a room, there's a chaotic situation going on. The energy immediately invites you to join into that energy of chaos. But if your spirit is more mindful and is predominant in you, your spirit will calm itself and assess the situation.
Mhm.
And if your energy is balanced, you will not just join in the chaos, you will begin to find out the reason for the chaos and the need and how you should respond to it, right? There is a fight, there is a flight and fight in all of us, right? But most often, you have that split second when you have to decide, we have to decide, is this a fight or is this a flight, right? And that's where mindfulness comes in, because the more mindful we are on a practice, um, discipline, that causes us to be more responsive and less reactionary in our daily confrontations of life. So I just wanted to come away today with understanding how important it is and how needful it is, if we're going to be healthy individuals, that we practice a rest. When I was in full-time ministry, um, Sundays were full, Saturdays were full, because we would have some event going on. I'm of that generation and that baby where I was in church from Monday uh, well, from Sunday to Sunday, because Monday was Good Shepherd, Tuesday was prayer meeting, Wednesday was Bible study, choir rehearsal was on Thursday, Friday was outreach, and Saturday was a junior usher or nurses meeting or something like that. And then we were back
Mhm.
in church on
Mhm.
Sunday, right? With
Mhm.
three services, and we didn't know any better. We didn't know any different, right? And so when I became a ministry leader and full time ministry, I would practice my rest on Mondays, because there was just I just had to detox. I had to be still, and if I was truly going to be true to the call, I had to connect with source of life. I had to connect with my Father and hear, so that I could stay in balance. One of the things that we are doing now, because we are way too busy, we are not giving out of our overflow. We're giving out of our need. And that's not a healthy place to give from, because often when you're giving out of your need, you have no patience, you have no grace, you have no understanding, because you're already at a deficit ourselves,
Yes.
right? We're already at a deficit.
Mhm.
And so, this space where we need to practice is a discipline, because everything is screaming for our attention. We have the alerts on the phone. We have the alerts on our computers. Something is always popping up and flashing at us, trying to get our attention. Without intention to have a quiet time daily, maybe even several times the day. I admire one of the disciplines of the people who pray 5 times a day.
Yes.
You know, that just they stop and pause no matter what is going on. That is a healthy
Mhm.
discipline, right? To
Yes.
stop
Mhm.
and have a set time when you give center to yourselves and to your creator. And so there are disciplines. I think the fact that we are in a time now, as I say, where it's more fashionable to be busy or to be on the grind and, doing that thing. I think it's more healthy for us to pull back and get back to ourselves by practicing mindfulness through rest, through that Sabbath. And that happens on a daily basis for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
I agree with that.
Whew. Well, you definitely just gave us a word
Mhm.
because I feel that everything you share is so timely with
mhm,
everything that's going on in our world, and really just reflecting on how our community has evolved over time. Like this is a timely message in terms of a sacred pause, as you put it.
mhm,
So many things are bubbling up in my mind, points
Mhm.
that you hit. I think the first one for me is around your own journey, being conditioned in what we're all conditioned in, this idea of this American dream, which, in my opinion, really should be the American illusion, but the
I
American
love
dream.
that's right. That's right. Yes.
And one thing that you said that really stuck out was you said we're spending so much time striving that we're not becoming,
Yeah.
you
hmm
know. And I
Mhm.
think really that really hit on the nerve, because if you're constantly striving and striving and striving, then like you said, once those things really don't have that same sort of like glimmer or shine to them, or those things go away, then you're kind of like, okay, who am I? Where am I? What am I
Mhm.
doing really? So
Yeah.
I think that's something
Mhm.
to really sit with
Yeah.
in terms of our own lives. What are the things that are really important? Because if we had to just take a second to think like, oh, if these particular things were no longer here,
hmm
then what would I be? Where would I be? How would I feel? And again, if you're so busy in the striving, or I like to say also, with some in our community, surviving mode,
Yeah.
then where does the becoming fit in?
Yeah. Yeah, that's really true. You just reminded me of something too. Um, and coming out of that pause, I began to shift, and I practice the mindfulness, but then I had to move back to Indiana, and I didn't want to move back to Indiana, right? But had I not moved back to Indiana, this time I was in Detroit. I had taken a job in Detroit. But everything, and this is why we also need to practice mindfulness, because um, the circumstances surrounding my decision to move there and all that was happening were shutting down. And I was, instead of being mindful, what I had just come through and recognizing, I started to panic a little bit, right? And I began to resist. Here's why we need mindfulness. I
Mm-hmm.
should have embraced um,
Mm-hmm.
what was being orchestrated, but I began to resist it, right? And so with that resisting, I ended up having to have all of my belongings in storage, move in with a family who were very loving and welcomed me in. But I also, it drew me back to my pause. And I had to stop and say, what is happening here? Well, if I had have received the guidance that was coming through spirit and had been agreeable in my spirit with it, gotten to alignment and obedience, it would not have been such a difficult transition. But the purpose for me to come back to Indiana was because my Heavenly Father knew that my son was going to transition within 1 year.
Mm.
And
Mm.
had I not come back, you see, this is why we want to always follow spirit, our inner knowing. If I had a, I was just resisting because I didn't want to deal with what I saw on the surface of coming back to the thing that I just did not want to be reminded of, right? The
Mm-hmm.
things that I wanted to forget. But had I not obeyed, and and it was a resignation. I still didn't come back with the best attitude, right? But I did come back. I did reconnect with my sons and my grandchildren and my family members and everything. But I also reconnected with some of the dysfunctional mindsets and attitudes and definitions of who I was in that other season. You see what I'm saying? Because the
Mhm.
people around me still saw me in that other season. You see what I mean? And so I
Mhm.
had to face all of that and deal with all of that, which I did not
Mhm.
want to. But it afforded me a year with my son, and then he transitioned. And in hindsight, I have been able to see all of the reason for the journey and the way that it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I took that energy and I put it in my book, From Grief to Grace. And that was the account for that. But it was something that you said that I wanted to address, and it's escaped me right now. But I just know that all things are truly working together to form us in who we are, but we really won't know who we are until we stop doing. We're striving, that's what it was. We're striving for
Mhm.
this idea, and we have not understood that we've been conditioned to be consumers in this culture.
Yeah.
We've
Mhm.
been conditioned not to be creatives, not to be authentic. We've been conditioned to
Mhm.
consume, right? We're in a climate right now today that we are addicted to racism. I'm doing a study. I have been blessed to, when the student is ready, the teachers appear. I've been blessed to work with a friend and colleague, Mr. George Middleton. He is a therapist here in the local Indianapolis area. He's written several books. He's a great thinker. And I've been working with him the last 3 years, and he has been talking to me about our perception and how we have been polarized, not only politically, but racially, by a lie, because there is no black and white. The only black and white that there actually is on a chessboard. And it's a game that has been played upon humanity, a very diabolical game, right? Because nobody's black. Black is a color, right? Nobody's white. But racism as a tool, deconstructing race as a tool, and I'm just going to take it here because this is the next reaction that they want out of us as a people,
Mhm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Both on both sides, right? And so if we're going to practice mindfulness, we have to be understanding of what is controlling our mind. How are we thinking,
Mm-hmm.
right? As a
Mhm.
man thinks in his heart, so is he. How you think about yourself, if you don't have an approving, accepting, loving space within yourself for yourself, You cannot love and accept and have a space for your neighbor or for me, right? And so we have been conditioned to see ourselves in a certain light, and that could be another conversation. But I really wanted to be sound the alarm that we won't be triggered by the language and the construct of propaganda to cause us to react to the bait of racism. And I want to
Mhm.
and I hope to share with you the understanding that I'm getting to see the parallel of addiction and racism, because racism is a lie. There's nothing truth about it, but it is a tool of
Mhm.
control. It is a tool of subjugation. It is a tool of hierarchy. So you'll be able to
Mhm.
find some more about that when you tune into my website, and we'll be talking about that. But I find that it's very critical in this hour that if we don't have a healthy esteem of ourselves, when I had to come back here to Indiana, not wanting to come, but that mindfulness made me to embrace the fact that you were brought here for a reason. Now let's sit in it and let's become what this issue is. And that's what took me through and brought me through the 5 year grace uh, of grief that brought me to where I am now with the grace. That you see this smile? I never thought that this smile could be
Mhm.
so authentic, right? And genuine. Because what we do when we are not mindful, we become our circumstance.
Mhm.
Mhm.
We become the issue, but we're not our circumstances and we're not our issues.
Mhm.
What we are observers of them if we will allow ourselves to be. We have to learn to be mindful, to pull back,
Mhm.
observe
Mhm.
what is happening, and then get still enough to allow ourselves to say, now, why did that land on me like that? Why did I feel that?
Mhm.
Why does that person, strike me that way? Why don't I like them? Why don't I like green beans? I don't like green beans because my grandmother made me eat green beans when I was a child, and she just made me eat them and sit there till they got cold. But she couldn't cook
Mm.
green beans well enough to make me to like them. Just speaking. You see what I'm saying? A lot
Oh
of what we
yes.
react to comes from a whole nother space, right? So anyway, I, I'll keep going on. I'll keep going on. So
No, I'm sitting here listening, and I love to I love what you shared.
Mhm.
Um, I think it speaks to this idea, what I said at the very beginning about mindfulness, that healing is being present to what is, and being able to allow whatever's arising in you to allow that to arise with a sense of curiosity. Um, and that grace that you spoke about is necessary as well, because sometimes whatever's arising in you, you may not like how it feels, but it doesn't mean that it's not arising.
Mhm.
It's still there. We offer some compassion to what is present for us. So now, saying all that, here's my question to you. So if you have someone who's on their healing journey, and say their healing journey is coming from trauma that occurred in childhood, um, what comes up for you as a a possible pathway for this person on their healing journey? What would you say they should begin to become present to be mindful of?
that's a great question. To be present and mindful on the healing journey, I have a chapter in the book called Sitting in It.
Mm,
In that
mhm,
chapter, I had to sit in the grief, the bitterness of it, the inconsolable grief of it. I
mhm,
had to sit in discovering, as you just stated, the not so pretty parts of me. Um, it was in that dark night of my soul, sitting in it, where I could address not only that trauma, see, because trauma touches other traumas, right? It'd be great
mhm,
if we all just had maybe one trauma,
Mhm.
but most of us have multiple. injuries and traumas, right? But that season of sitting in it, that time of sitting in it, allowed me to touch many other areas of disappointment, hurt, offenses. It's like in that time, I was able to touch every part of my soul. That little girl in me who just needed a father's love and affirmation and attention and presence because my father lived and decided not to connect and bond with any of his children. So there was a deep root of rejection, right?
Mhm.
There was a deep root of abandonment. Most often, we are trying to anesthetize our souls or, medicate, self medicate from the pain and the trauma instead of actually
Mhm.
facing the thing, right? Sitting in it.
Mhm.
So I would tell that person to allow themselves the harmony
Mhm.
because it does a harmonious thing. There is, it would be nice if all of the notes in our lives were on the major scale, but what really makes a song is when you add in the minor notes, the dark notes, the notes that don't sound so bright and cheery. Those notes help you to really appreciate the brighter times, right?
Mhm.
And so I would say face and sit in it and get to the root. We always want to deal with the fruit of a situation. We never get down to the root of it. Like, what caused this in me? One of the heart postures that we go after when we are when I'm ministering um, uh, in this vein is that people don't oftentimes want to get in there and find out what happened to me because we've got to understand something happened to you. It's not you, all right? It happened to you, and you took it
Mhm.
on as a persona, and you made it a part of you. And just like you took it on and made it a persona of a part of you, you can take it off of you, right? But you
Mhm.
have to
Yes.
get to it. You have to be willing to address it. Mhm.
Yeah.
So when you have those roots of rejection, those roots of abandonment, you have a very keen sense of fear uh, for disappointment. There's like, where did that come from? Who disappointed you? And I think the greatest
Mhm.
thing here is something I've even recently, because I'm continuing to evolve. It's not like I've arrived. I had to get over. I just recently had to deal with forgiving myself again in another area, but for breaking trust with myself.
Mm.
Mhm.
That's why I had trust issues. You see,
Mhm.
and so if you have trust issues based on, you have a divorce, you have abandonment from your parents, you have trust issues, but then you disappoint yourself. You say you make vows to yourself and then you break your own vow to yourself. Well, there's trust issues there, right? And so for
Mhm.
me to be able to be healthy, to trust again, I had to get to the root of that. Now I could forgive the ex-spouse, I could forgive the coworker. I could forgive my mom, my dad, my sister, my brother, whatever. But could I forgive myself? You see,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and that's where that lies. And so I would just encourage them to go there. Don't be afraid of it. It's a part of who you are, and yet it holds the key of discovering who you were meant to be.
Mm.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I agree with
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
wholeheartedly. Yeah.
Amen. Ashe, and
Mhm.
anything else
Yeah.
that sums
Yeah.
that up. Ah.
Yeah. And it's so interesting, how purpose often sits in the midst of pain,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you experience trauma. And if you can, it's like Thich Nhat Hanh talks about no mud, no
No Lotus.
lotus,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So this idea that your purpose is sitting in your pain, and
Mm-hmm.
being able to maneuver through that pain. And I I I'm also a therapist by trade. So I
Okay.
often tell the individuals that I work with in group that that compassion is the ointment for for injury. You know,
Yes.
so what you said, sitting in it, to me is you cultivating that ointment, right, and placing it on that pain that is arising or that has arisen and that you're feeling. And you got to be in the present moment in order to even address it, you know.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I'm feeling everything you're saying. You're right on
I
point.
love
Yes.
Yeah.
yes, thank you. Yeah, and also, I think also we are such a fabulous creation, right? Like
Mhm.
we are the kind of being that touches not only the spirit realm but also the material realm, the earthly realm, right? And we have this glorious ability to navigate between, like I say I'm a citizen of two worlds, right? And maybe more, but we have this glorious um, design to be able to use our minds to go to places in our imagination that we everything that we see around us was in somebody's imagination, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
we have forfeited the gifting and the prideful calling of a divine nature that has been bestowed upon us by subjecting ourselves to instant gratification, by subjecting ourselves to a low frequency of foods that don't supply nutrition, right? By subjecting ourselves to the immediate, right? There is something so necessary for a being such as ourselves to be fluid, right? To be able to um, express ourselves not in just one dimension, you see. And this is
Mhm.
why I know that we are up against something very nefarious against humanity, right? Because now we are being pressed down. It's really we're fighting to rise above what is causing us to be demented in our natural selves. And how do I mean that? When you sit in front of a device and you're scrolling, we're scrolling, I won't say you, we're scrolling and we're scrolling. Precious time and energy is being put into this device that could otherwise be spent in creating and meeting the need of ourselves and others. But we don't we're not there, right? And when we are in that space, our minds are literally being suppressed. And unfortunately, just think when we sit down and we begin to meditate and we hear our heartbeat, we hear our breath, right?
Mhm.
We get to engage ourselves with our imagination, and our minds can take us to a meadow. One of the things I love about storytelling and writing books is that in a book depending on how well the author has written and descriptive they are, you can actually see yourself in the story, right?
Mhm.
You can
Mhm.
Yeah.
actually feel the breeze, you can actually experience the wave or whatever the narrative is, right? And that is something that I really love to do in that space of mindfulness, and we need to get back to that. And so I think you said compassion is the ointment for the pain. That pain serves to let us know a few things, but I'll give it to you like this. On my journey, I said it right quick. I'll say it right quick. We're here to learn. We are incarnate into this realm to learn.
Mhm.
And the lesson is love, the greatest energy in all the universe.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yes.
Now, in order to appreciate the light, you have to have the darkness. And we are incarnated into this realm to be proven that we are truly vessels of love and to receive that honor at the end of the journey. Okay. So here's this helped me. No man is my enemy, no man is my friend, but every man is my teacher. I'll say it again. And this comes from a reading that I did out of Florence Scovel Shinn. She says, "No man is my energy. No man is my enemy.
Mhm.
Okay, no man is my friend, but every man is my teacher."
Mhm.
What did you
Mm.
come to teach me? You may have caused me trauma and pain, but what did you come to teach me? You may befriended me on the journey and we laughed and had a wonderful, good time, but what did you come to teach me about me? Oh, love,
Mhm.
friend, you came to teach me that I'm able to love and be loved and I'm loving. Trauma, drama friend, you came to teach me that I can know patience and I can know forgiveness and I can know kindness,
Mm,
Mhm.
even to people who are not so kind to me. You see what I'm saying? So if I
yes.
Mhm.
take it out of offense and what has been done to me, but more what is coming to me. What have you come to
Mhm.
me? That's how we can take that ointment and apply it to the pain.
Mm.
Mm,
Like that.
yes,
Yes.
yes. I really like
Mhm.
that. And that is a wonderful way to
Mhm.
really just put the stamp on all the wisdom that you shared.
Yes, goodness.
I just want to thank you so much, Evelyn, for sharing your journey, your life journey, and also the healing journey within within your life. We believe that healing doesn't end, and you definitely have shown that it doesn't ever end. Also, really want to thank you for um, just really centering on this sacred pause for
Yes.
everyone that's out there. I think what you said to end it all really summarizes for me the essence of sacred pause, along with the practices and things like that, is really about, okay, what is this here for me? What is it here for me to learn? Whether it's a person, a thing, an experience.
Mhm.
And so, much appreciation
Yes.
for everything you've shared.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, we have. I'm watching the time, and so and I want to be
Hmm.
respectful of your time, and also of our audience time as well. So I wanted to say that you've shared such wisdom, and I appreciate you, and I see you as a blessing to support our community growth. So continue all of this wonderful work that this divine work. You
Hmm.
know, inviting you to continue that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to end with our sentence stems, so we can get a little bit more connection with our guests. So what I'll do is I'll give you the first part of the sentence stem, and you just finish it with whatever comes to your mind, the first thing that comes to your mind. So the first sentence stem is: communities, African American communities, and other communities of color healing. No, let me back up. Healing in African American communities and other communities of color looks like, and you finish the rest.
Healing in African American communities and other communities of color looks like collective intention to be peer to peer healers for one another.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Community to you looks like.
Community to me looks like love expressed through deeds and action.
Mm. And finally, joy to you looks like.
Joy, joy to me looks like, I have to say it. Joy to me
Mhm.
looks like the hope and the truth of knowing that I am loved by a supreme God and being who defines me and made me in his image and likeness. Joy, he is my joy. She is my
Mm.
joy. That's my joy.
All right. Nice, nice.
Yes.
All right, everyone. I'm also looking at the time. So we want to encourage everyone to send us any questions, thoughts, or comments that you'd like us to share with Evelyn,
Hmm.
Evelyn Ray. And also, we're going to put all of her information where you can engage and connect with her in our newsletter. So watch out for that. Her website, evelynray.com, YouTube, Evelyn Ray, Instagram, Evelyn Ray Music, and also information in regards to the book From Grief to Grace: Overcoming the Pain of Trauma, Loss, and Transition. So
Hmm.
look out for that in the newsletter, everyone. And you want to take us out?
So remember to share with someone, share this, and like.
Mhm. Mm.
Yes.